Cheese is one of the oldest manufactured food products in the world. Legend has it that it started in the Middle East over 5,000 years ago.
It didn't happen by design, but by accident. What they would have originally stored milk in was, in fact, the lining of a sheep or goat or cow's stomach. If you can imagine a shepherd filling the skin up with milk and travelling across the desert, the milk warms up, and as it warmed up, unbeknownst to the traveller, of course, the milk would have curdled. And when he came to drink it, instead of being milk, it would have been a combination of solids and liquid. So the first cheeses would have really looked probably a little bit like feta does today.
It was the Romans who honed the art of cheese making.
With the expansion and development of the Roman civilization came an expansion of their knowledge of all sorts of things, including cheese making. And they really did understand the process of cheese making, and that was why they could then start developing really good cheeses. And so cheeses like Parmesan and Pecorino would have been made since very early Roman times.
And it's the French who have set the standard for how to savour the best cheeses from around the world.
In France, you have your cheese board before your pudding. 4 is the minimum number, and give the best from France, the best from Italy, the best from the United Kingdom. It's a truly international dish.
So you start by the center of the cheese, any shape it is. You do a nice wedge like that, and you have the heart of the cheese here, where you got all the flavor, the best part, basically, of the cheese. So this is a perfect cheese plate, starting with the goat, and then progressively going toward the stronger one, which is the blue.
There's a fantastic combination, pasta and cheese. It really works. And the British have sort of come up with their own sort of slice of culinary history here and invented macaroni cheese. It's fantastic. We even sell it in tins. Now, the first thing we need to do is wallop some macaroni into a pan. So we're just going to pour some of this in. Macaroni is actually a sort of generic term for lots of different pastas, so don't expect to be given the same one every time you go into a deli and ask for macaroni. What's going to combine all this is a really cheesy sauce, because I think there is a sort of a British spin to this dish. We're going to use cheddar, which is a fantastic cheese to use in sauces, nice and hard, melts really well. Into this pan, I'm going to throw some butter and just start that melting down slightly. And then on top of that, we're going to add some flour. And this flour is exactly the same weight as that butter. And that, in cookery terms, is known as a roux. And that is the basis for a sauce which then becomes a bechamel. So the addition of milk to this base is a bechamel sauce. And it's an absolute pillar, culinary pillar. You know, it's one of the first things you learn when you're at college. Add hot milk so that it doesn't have so far to go to reach temperature. And add a little milk and add it often, allowing the milk to be combined with the base and return back to temperature. Now, it's a very important part of the job, is that continuous working of the sauce.
The heat is making the starch granules in the flour absorb the milk and swell up. This begins to thicken the sauce. As it gets to boiling point, starch leaks from the granules into the sauce, making it even thicker.
So what we're going to do now is add some cheese to this. Couple of golden rules. Take it off the heat. You don't want to reheat the cheese or overheat the cheese because it's going to become stringy. And you have to make your decision about your sauce's thickness now, because once the cheese is in there, there's no going back, OK? The second rule, with cheese going into sauces, you want to use a hard, fairly dry, mature cheese. And the reason we're grating it up is that it disperses into the sauce much more easily and melts into the sauce. Now, this is a really good cheddar cheese. And what better ingredient comes from this country? I mean, it's just a really fantastic cheese. Little mix about. Now, remembering that this is going to go with macaroni, there's a fairly bland taste to macaroni. You know, it's what goes with pasta that makes it so exciting. So you actually want to over-season and over-cheese the sauce slightly. And that has got a really good cheesy flavour. There we go. And then that can sit on the side whilst we turn our attention to the pasta. Remember to give it a good shake, because all that water gets caught in the tubes. We're going to combine it together now. So what we're going to do is pour some pasta into the bowl. And then I'm going to add some mushrooms. And there's chanterelle, there's shimeji mushrooms in there, some shiitake mushrooms and some oyster mushrooms. And I'm also going to use some baby leeks. These baby leeks are absolutely raw and sliced very, very finely. What I'm thinking is that the heat of that pasta is just going to wilt them down and release the flavour. You could use onion, garlic, red onion would be really good. You just want that sort of nice oniony flavour. It goes so well with cheese. And finally, a bit of our sauce. Now, when I was living at home, the rule in our house was on your birthday, you could choose whatever dish you wanted. And like a fool, I ignored lobster thermidor, I ignored foie gras, all those. I've never once asked for that. I always asked for macaroni cheese, and now I always realise why my mum ran to the kitchen laughing. Because A, it's easy to make, and B, it doesn't cost a fortune. That is going to go into this dish here, earthenware, oven-proof dish, because the final part of the cookery of this is just to bake it through the oven and give it that beautiful golden topping, which I think is the whole reason for eating macaroni cheese.